Peter Tatchell, and he should be known to all of you, really, in the sense that for over 40 years, Peter has campaigned for human rights, democracy, and global justice. He's described himself driven by the love for mankind. Peter has really suffered at the hands of goons sometimes, you know. He was beaten up by President Mugabe's bodyguards, and also in his Moscow, I think, when he beat up the Nazis there, when they attacked you quite badly, really, and injured him as well. He's been campaigning to get, for the equal rights for gay and lesbian in the UK. Peter's also works as solidarity for human rights activists in many other countries, including Iran, Uganda, Iraq, Russia, Zimbabwe, Pakistan, Balochistan. He's written extensively on the Baloch freedom struggle for the national and international press. So welcome.
Speakers about the scale of oppression that exists right across Pakistan in many different ways, but of course particularly in Baluchistan. So I don't want to add to that. I think we're all acquainted with the oppression and persecution that's happening. What I'd like to address is some ideas about how we take this campaign forward. I don't have all the answers. I've got a few suggestions. I hope we might discuss them, debate them, and perhaps you can help refine and improve them. But to me, the number one starting point, the number one weakness of the Baluch national struggle is the division and sectarianism between different groups. That is what is holding back the freedom struggle. And we have to face up to that. We have to face up to that. That there are too many groups at each other's throats or claiming supremacy, when lots of those groups and lots of the individuals within those groups have a contribution to make and share the basic fundamentals. They want Pakistan out of Balochistan, they want political prisoners freed, they want international aid agencies to go in and help support the people in Balochistan. So there is a basis for unity. And I think everybody who is passionate about the liberation of Balochistan needs to start working for that unity. Of course, working for unity doesn't mean to say you'll get it. But I think if you are of good intention and sincerity, you will find there are other people in other organizations and movements and places who share your basic common concern for the future of Balochistan. If we look at history, no divided movement has ever won its liberation. It's never happened. When movements are divided, they are weak, and the oppressor grabs them by the throat and throttles them. So unity is the fundamental criterion for moving forward the Baluch liberation and freedom movement. And that means being prepared to make some compromises. To accept that we, or you, or I, haven't got all the answers. We have our own sincere beliefs and our conscience, but we may not have all the answers. There are other people who have other perspectives, and some of what they're saying, perhaps not all, but some of what they're saying, can contribute and be of value to the process of liberation. Here in Britain, on lots of campaigns, on civil liberties, on lesbian and gay human rights, on the whole issue of the war on terror, I work with lots of people with different perspectives. I don't agree with them about some other issues. I don't agree about, some of their political philosophies. But on the core issues of defending the civil liberties of the people of this country, opposing the way in which the war on terror has been used to ratchet diminutions in our freedoms, we can work together, and we do. And some of the draconian legislation has been defeated precisely because people of very different perspectives and backgrounds have decided that on this issue we agree. And what I'm saying is, surely this can happen in Baluchistan as well. If we look at the example of South Africa, in the struggle against apartheid, there was an umbrella organisation called the United Democratic Front, which brought together all the disparate groups in South Africa. Political parties who had different perspectives, student organisations and others had different approaches, but they all decided that for the greater good of overcoming apartheid, they would work together around certain core fundamental principles. And that's how South Africa won its freedom. Because people decided to put aside their personal differences and work together for the common cause of the liberation of South Africa from white minority rule. Now, as I said, I think in Balochistan there are certain core principles and values that nearly all nationalists can agree on, whatever other differences they may have. You know, freedom for political prisoners, an end to Pakistani military operations, you know, a free press, the right of aid agencies and human rights groups to go in and do fact-finding missions, the right of the Baluch people to determine their own future and, if they wish, and they probably will wish, to vote for independence. These are common views, common ideas that every Baluch person committed to freedom must surely agree with. And as you will know, last March in Geneva, when several of us went there to put the Baluch case to the United Nations, afterwards we spent a few hours jotting down some ideas. And I brought them together last year and wrote them up as a draft Baloch Freedom Charter. I don't pretend for 1 minute that's a perfect document. It's not my document. It was done by Baluch activists working together in Geneva after that meeting at the UN. I think what they've produced is a credible beginning and the basis on which virtually all Baluch people can agree. And why is this important? Not only do you need unity, you need to tell your own people and the world what you stand for. When I speak to journalists and MPs, they say, what do these Baluch people stand for? I can't give them a document, because there isn't one. The African National Congress had its Freedom Charter, setting out the principles that it was fighting for, the goals, the ideals, the policies of a non-racial, democratic, post-apartheid South Africa. Everybody knew what the ANC was fighting for, because they had the Freedom Charter, they saw the Freedom Charter, they understood the Freedom Charter, and they supported the Freedom Charter. Now what I'm suggesting, and it's only a suggestion, it's up to the Baluch people themselves to decide, you need a Freedom Charter. Maybe the one that was drafted in Geneva, the United Nations, last March 2010, maybe it's not the right document, but you need some document. If that's not the right one, you need to get one. And you need to start promoting it in Balochistan and around the world. Because members of Parliament, members of the European Parliament, members of Parliament all around the world want to know what you stand for and what a future free Balochistan would look like. So if you stand for secularism and democracy and human rights for all, you need to say that, because they want to hear it. They don't want to support an organisation which they suspect or fear might be covertly fundamentalist and going to introduce horrible oppressions once they win their freedoms. We know that that's not part of the Baluch agenda. And that's great, but you need to say so. You need to write it down, put it in a document. So those are my two basic suggestions. Build and work for unity to overcome the divisions and get a document together, a freedom charter for Balochistan. In terms of immediate demands, I mean, obviously one of the great problems that Balochistan faces is that so few people know where it is and know what's happened. What's really important is to get a fact-finding mission in there. A fact-finding mission from a major international body like the United Nations, the International Red Cross, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch. We need to facilitate and help to get those organisations, or at least one of them, to go in there and produce an authoritative document that will be credible because it comes from a credible organisation. Once we have that evidence, then we're going to be in a position to start making demands on the international community. because we can reference a document which sets out the facts. Not the facts as, you know, supposed or appearing on websites, good as all the websites are, but facts as determined by authoritative speakers and researchers, with the backing of responsible, respected international organisations. That's the way to do it. When you've got that evidence, you're going to find that people in power listen to you with much greater conviction and support. It's already been mentioned, the idea that Pakistan should be taken to the International Criminal Court, or that Pakistan could be reported to the United Nations Human Rights Council and the Security Council with a view to a case being begun at The Hague. We need to start getting the evidence to show what Pakistan is doing and who's doing it, and then building a legal case to have those people prosecuted. I'm talking about senior government officials, but particularly military and intelligence officials in Pakistan. We need to name them and name what they are doing and produce the evidence of what they're doing, and then get friendly governments to start making noises in the Security Council and at the Human Rights Council to get a legal case and proceedings to begin against these Pakistani military and government leaders. That is really, really, really important and could be incredibly effective. I think, you know, we need to find, perhaps here in Britain, some prominent human rights lawyer, not looking anywhere at Jim, but some prominent human rights lawyer who'd be willing in this country to start preparing a legal case against key Pakistani military and intelligence officials. It doesn't have to be everyone, but you can start with just one case even. Just one case, because that would set down a marker. It would send a signal to the Pakistanis, we are watching and now we're acting. We know what you're doing, we're preparing legal cases against you. That can, in some circumstances, have a deterrent effect. It can have a deterrent effect because people who fear possible future prosecution will not always take notice, but some of them might. Some of them might think, well, perhaps it's not worth me taking this risk. Perhaps I won't endorse this torture or have this person executed, because maybe these people in London or New York or Berlin who are preparing legal cases, maybe they will never meet in the end. So it can be a deterrent effect. Another suggestion is we need to start talking about and drawing up a program of sanctions against Pakistan. You know, it is very, very, very important, again, that we start setting out very clearly that these people who are doing these things are not going to get away with it. They're not going to walk away scot-free. So the very simple things which have just been done against the Syrians, a travel ban and an assets freeze to identify key government, military and intelligence officials and put them on a watch list, to ban their travel within the European Union and even worldwide as possible, and to freeze their overseas assets. A halt to all military arms sales and cooperation with Pakistan. We know that the helicopters and strike aircraft that fly into and bomb and strafe Baluchistan are supplied by the United States. We need to get the tap of arms turned off. The same with small arms as well. The Western countries who are supplying those weapons must be pressured to halt all arms sales to Pakistan until such time as military operations cease in Balochistan and the people are given the right to determine their own future. It's absolutely disgraceful that Britain, which doesn't sell as many arms as the United States, but does sell some, has still, and certainly until the last couple of years, been training Pakistani military officials at Sandhurst and other military academies in this country. Our government, is training the killers, training the people who are murdering the people of Sindhi and Balochistan. That's got to stop. That's got to. And Kashmir, absolutely. I think we should also press for the halt to all the export of all luxury items to Pakistan for the ruling elite. You know, the ruling elite is very rich. They use their riches, much of it stolen from the people, to buy things of fabulous wealth. Export of luxury items should be curtailed to Pakistan to stop the privileged elite who are implicated in these human rights abuses from benefiting and enjoying. When it comes to overseas aid from Britain and other countries, we've got to start saying that the aid must not go to a government that discriminates against people who are Pashtuns, Sindhi, Baluch, or whatever. That all aid must be on a non-discriminatory basis, and indeed, we shouldn't be giving any aid to the government of Pakistan while it's persecuting its own citizens. That money should go to grassroots organisations in Balochistan, Sindh, the Northwest Frontier and elsewhere, grassroots organisations with a proven record, and to international aid agencies like WaterAid, Oxfam, Site Savers International, organisations that do not discriminate and that will provide aid impartially to the people who really need it. And the final thing I'd just propose is that we need to start talking about suspending Pakistan from the Commonwealth. I think it's back in the Commonwealth, isn't it back now? Yeah, it is back now. Yeah, it has been back. But quite clearly, given these gross human rights abuses, Pakistan should not be in the Commonwealth. It is violating all the Commonwealth principles about democracy, human rights, liberty, and human dignity. And of course, this is a very important time, a very relevant time, to push for Pakistan's suspension, because the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting will be taking place in Perth at the end of October this year. This is the moment to start raising this demand to get Pakistan suspended from the Commonwealth. And I hope that Baluch representatives will attend the Commonwealth People's Forum, which is the parallel NGO conference that takes place at the same time as the Commonwealth Conference. It's in Perth, Australia, in October this year. And the Commonwealth People's Forum is a very good place to get this message out about what's happening in Pakistan, particularly in Baluchistan, to other NGOs, to members of the Commonwealth, and to the media who cover both the Commonwealth Conference and the People's Forum. The final point I want to say is that where in this room are the women of Baluchistan? Very few women.
I am standing for all of them.
Look at history. No people have ever won their liberation without women. Women are half of the Baluch population. Half of the population. You can't win with half the population. You need everybody.
Yes.
And the woman's role is not in the kitchen or behind the husband, it's in the front line of every protest in London and every protest in Baluchistan. If you bring women in the struggle, you will increase your victory, you will increase your strength, you will enable a much stronger, resolute fight to be won. So thank you.